This is the Annotated Bibliography presentation by Shrina, Candace, Aubriana, Sheena, and Caitlin. We'll start off with the PICO worksheet. We define our question using the PICO, which is identifying the population, intervention, comparison group, and outcomes. Our population is school-aged children with autism. Intervention is the use of American Sign Language, abbreviated as ASL. Our comparison is the Picture Exchange Communication System, abbreviated as PECS. Outcome is requesting objects. Our formal question is, how does the use of American Sign Language improve requesting skills in school-aged children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder in comparison to the Picture Exchange Communication System, as measured by the number of spontaneous requests made? Some topics and alternative terms that can be used for our search are MANS, social interaction, questions, needs, autism spectrum disorder, low functioning, high functioning, ASD, Picture Exchange Communication System, or the abbreviation of PECS, and American Sign Language, or the abbreviation of ASL, or just sign language. Some inclusion criteria include school-aged children. Ideally, we'd like to find published articles within the past 10 years, and autism. All of our participants used in the studies will have received a confirmed diagnosis of ASD prior to beginning treatment. Some things we need to exclude in our search are children who were previously exposed to treatment involving ALS or PECS. The first article we chose was using the Picture Exchange Communication System with children with autism. Assessment of PECS acquisition, speech, social communicative behavior, and problem behavior. The study was done by Charlotte Christie, Carpenter, Lee, LeBlanc, and Kellett, and conducted in 2002. Charlotte Christie, LeBlanc, and Kellett, students of Claremont McKenna College, along with Carpenter and Lee, students of Claremont Graduate University, investigated the acquisition of PECS and assessed the effects of PECS on oral communication in social and academic contexts in 3 children with autism spectrum disorder. Each of the 3 children successfully met the criterion for learning PECS of 80% correct at each phase of PECS. Each of the 3 children also exhibited increases in verbal speech in pre- and post-testing. Additionally, increases in social communicative behavior and decreases in problem behaviors were noted by pre- and post-testing measures. This investigation is the first controlled and empirically based study completed to assess the efficacy of PECS. The results of this study are important to our research because they represent evidence-based practice for the use of PECS, which will be compared to sign language treatment in the context of requesting wants and needs. The next article we used was the effectiveness of the Picture Exchange Communication System on communication and speech for children with autism spectrum disorders, a meta-analysis. This article was by Flippen, Reska, and Watson, 2010. The meta-analysis conducted by researchers at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill confirms the impact of PECS resulting in increased functional communication skills in children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and slight gains in speech ability. The meta-analysis further supports this idea by referencing 11 studies where increases in communication were demonstrated in the single subject and group studies. This research confirms findings from previous studies, which suggest further investigation is necessary regarding generalization of communication skills acquired using PECS. The research is important for our paper to determine which course of treatment, PECS or ASL, results in increased social communication. The next article is Teaching Sign Language to a Non-Vocal Child with Autism, Skatton and Billhofer, 2008. Skatton and Billhofer, researchers at the University of Mississippi, investigated the outcomes of teaching MANS, TACs, and intraverbals to a non-vocal child with autism using sign language. The researchers found that the participant used sign language to MANS, or request, more than using TACs, or labels, or intraverbals. This study is consistent with previous studies that suggest using sign language to elicit a specific response as a possible communication device for children with autism. This research will be useful in determining whether sign language is more effective than PECS for requesting items. The next article used was comparing the Picture Exchange Communication System and sign language training for children with autism. This study was conducted by Takani in 2004. Tinkani, a special education professor at the University of Nevada, examines the impact of PECS and ASL on independent manding in school-aged children with autism. The study included 2 participants with varied severity levels of autism. Findings indicate that in order to determine which treatment is best suited for an individual, the client's hand motor imitation skills should be taken into consideration, with independence as the primary goal and increased production of speech as the secondary goal. These results differ from prior studies, which found that ASL produced better responses in participants with manual hand dexterity in comparison to PECS. This research is important for our paper because the participants' variation in hand motor imitation abilities is more representative of the population and determine which intervention is more effective in increasing independent mands. The last article we used was the Picture Exchange Communication System, Effects on Manding and Speech Development for School-Aged Children with Autism. This was by Tinkani and Alizetta, 2006. The authors, researchers at Temple University and University of Nevada, examined the effects of PECS on the acquisition of manding for school-aged children with autism. Conducting 2 studies with 3 overall participants, the researchers found that 2 of the participants demonstrated increased levels of manding after implementation of PECS. These results are consistent with previous studies that found that PECS increased participants' levels of independent and spontaneous manding. This research is important for our paper to help decide whether PECS is more effective for mands in comparison to ASL. This is our bibliography, and it cites all of the formal citations of the previously mentioned articles.